What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode. It is Sunday here, April 13th. Very important day. There are some urgent signals to be looking at for today, including the weekly candle close and seeing where that weekly candle closes. I've been talking about this because we have hit some major supports. What it could mean for Bitcoin, the stock markets, and a lot of the crypto markets, okay? Because Bitcoin is the driver of the crypto markets. We're going to be taking a look into the charts I've been talking about, taking a look into some key signals that I am looking for here, right? Sunday's pretty important day to me, in my opinion, because Monday candle opens 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here, and I could see some price action leading up to that Monday candle close. So let's take a look into the charts. We are going to take a look into the weekly time frame. Right now, we did have some pretty interesting price action that happened yesterday, Saturday, which is interesting because price action did go up to about 86,000, which is basically in line with that resistance range I've been talking about because we had quite a bit of the daily candles, daily moving averages in between that 84 to 87,000 range. Okay, we are still looking at that double bottom, which I'll get to. But, we are in that resistance range, pretty in line with this upward trend line I've been talking about for this possible falling wedge pattern that could still happen, okay, if the downside does occur. Now, let's take a look into the weekly time frame. Key moving average I'm looking at is the 77,000 weekly 50 SMA, right? If we actually break below that, then we're going to see some further downside, okay? So very important on the weekly candle that we hold above the weekly 50 SMA, okay, which is the gray line here, okay? Right now, it's looking pretty good, okay, because we are actually getting a bigger greenish candle than the previous red candle. Let's come over here to the 3-day time frame. Okay, double bottom on the 3-day time frame. Took quite some time to build up, okay, but the double bottom here, the bottom for the 3-day candles is about 78.5, okay. We did get a very good bounce for the past 2 3-day candles, and we are hitting that 3-day 21 SMA here, which is pretty in line with the daily moving averages as well, which is the blue line here, and pretty parallel with that top trend line, okay. Now, very important that if the bulls are actually able to break out of this resistance range from about 84 to 87,000, the next level up would be about 89,000, which is basically the neckline of that double bottom pattern. If we actually break out of that double bottom pattern, price target is going to be about 104,000. Okay, so these are some pretty key signals I am looking for, step by step, and seeing how Bitcoin does in each of these levels. On the upside, okay, of course, downside still have to consider. If we start getting 3-day candle closes below 70,000 ish, right, that is not going to be a good sign for the bulls. And downside, my estimate is somewhere along this bottom trend line, right, which would take us back to the low 70s, which is pretty in line with that range we've been consolidating under back in 2024. If you guys were here in 2024, right? Let me know if you guys are new in trading. Have you guys been trading for a while? Me personally, I've been trading since 2019. Okay, that's when I first started. Still here, proudly, right? And yeah, I mean that $70,000 range could be that downside, okay, because it's pretty in line with that resistance we've been consolidating under in 2024, and pretty in line with that bottom trend line I've been I'm just estimating here, right? It's still a good idea to get estimates, so at least you can get a good idea of what price action could go if things go your way or don't go your way. All right, so 104,000 would be the price target if the bulls are actually successfully able to break out of this double bottom pattern. Of course, price targets are estimates only. It could be more or less. And then the next real level I'll be looking at for the bulls to break will be about that $110,000 all-time high resistance before we can talk, more bullish ideas. Okay. Now let's go over to daily time frame. Right, we are at the daily 50 SMA, the gray line here. The next level up would be about 87,000, 87.5, which is the daily 200. Very important moving average resistance. The bulls definitely do want to reclaim that as support and clearly define that this is still in a bull market, right? This is basically the divide between a bull market and a bear market. Now, a lot of these ideas and concepts I'm talking about, you can basically find on Google, Investopedia as common knowledge. So if you guys hear terms that you don't understand, definitely go and look that up. If you guys are curious enough, if you guys want to stay trading in this market enough, okay? Let's come over here to, so let's take a look into this daily time frame real quick, okay? So if I want to get like an earlier signal that this could be going back down south, right? I'll be looking at, I definitely do want to see daily candle closes above 79,000, right? Which, it's basically this range right here, maybe 79, 78,000 range, right? Don't want to get daily candle closes below that level, right? However, we do have a pretty strong bounce here from the RSI, so that implies that the next equal or lower low here, if we were to make one, if we were to see another price drop here and make an equal or lower low, we'll still get bullish divergence, very important idea, and possibly get another bounce there, even though the magnitude of the bounce is still yet to be seen, right? Comes to 12-hour time frame here. I think on the 12-hour time frame is where I would still consider that on the shorter time frames where we're still having a higher low, which is very important, right? Because the bulls are trying to break out of this, at least break out of this upward trend line here, right? And above the daily 50 SMA, right? So on this time frame, I'm still seeing higher lows, right? You see higher highs, higher low, higher high, and higher low. So it still looks good on this time frame. Now, what if this higher high and higher low trajectory breaks on this time frame? So it's not going to be looking good on this time frame for the bulls. What I usually do is I would zoom out and see where, in what time frame are we still getting higher highs and higher lows, and consider opening or closing positions based on that idea, right? Or take heavy consideration based on that idea. Now let's go to the smaller time frames. 6 hour, you guys see what I'm talking about. So we had a higher low at about 84.5, right? But now we're making a lower low on the 6 hour time frame, in my opinion, right? So so that's basically what I'm looking at. I do want to give my opinion here, and my opinion only, not financial advice, right? Is that on the RSI, it still looks pretty good, right? I am not seeing divergence on the RSI on the 6 hour time frame. That tells me, usually it's probably not going to come back to a 6 hour moving average, right? That's underneath it as support, right? On the 4 hour, I don't like, I usually don't like the look of this on the RSI, where it's kind of exaggerated, but it comes back down. So it did come back down to a 4 hour moving average as a retest, right? Now, this is the support unless we break it, right? 83.4, which is the 4 hour 200 SMA, the orange line, right? So we have quite a bit of lower time frame moving averages beneath us that is support. I am looking at the 12-hour time frame mainly because we still have a higher low. Okay, hourly time frame, this could be interesting as well because on the RSI here, if the price action was to make an equal or lower low, that is a pretty strong bounce here, right? This is a very important idea where if you just look at the price action chart, it's not going to tell you something that's subtle. But on the RSI here, it's telling me that this was a pretty strong bounce. And if the price action was to make an equal or lower low on the next red candle, it's still going to most likely produce a bounce and see where that goes because we're going to have bullish divergence again unless it gets invalidated. So that's basically what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Let's take a look into the stock market real quick. Stock market is very important, right? I'm looking at the ES1 exclamation mark, which is the S&P 500 futures. This also opens Sunday afternoon for Monday. And what's very important here on the weekly time frame is that we bounced off a very key support, which was the breakout point. Okay, that has been consolidating for I think years actually. You know, since January 2022 to January 2024, this breakout, this cup and handle breakout, and we basically retested that this week at about 4,800. If the stock market actually breaks that support, next level down is going to be about 4,700 weekly 200 SMA, which is pretty far down. And the importance of this is that it's highly correlated with Bitcoin and the crypto markets, right? And so you definitely don't want to see this continue going down because that could pull the crypto markets down with it. So very important to be paying attention to this as well. A earlier signal I'll be looking for is the daily time frame, which we still got a pretty good bounce on the RSI, right? If we start getting daily candle closes below 5,100, which is basically you're going to see some key support and resistance levels in this very short drop here, then, I would be a little more cautious. Of course, we still most likely would get bullish divergence and get another bounce, but I would start being a little more cautious. This is basically what I'm looking at for Bitcoin, for stock market, for the crypto markets right now. If you guys do want to get daily updates, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, right? Ask me any questions. I would love to answer them in the next video. And have a beautiful day.